Hello, and welcome to another episode of Katunkwit Chronicles here in our wonderful town of Katunkwit in the studio. I'm so pleased to have my friend here and co-host of this podcast. What's your name again?
Ashland.
Jocularity. Jocularity.
How are you, James? Even though I know you're not 100% today.
Little off, yeah.
Hobbled in here.
There wasn't much going on there with the walking. I was struggling every step. And I'm glad I'm sitting at the moment. Just muscle pull from some work I was doing around the house in the abode. And, I've got to really figure out what the next step is with this. Like you suggested, some sort of stretch clinic. And
I've heard good things about
I do
them.
a lot of stretching, though, but I guess maybe not stretch and strengthen, right? So, I don't put myself in this position. Winter sucks for me. It just does. Have we done any music? No.
No, we haven't.
Now that feels better. Here we are, once again, in Katunkwit, speaking to one another. This is great. Well, I have been catching up with some of these folks, these characters around town, so to speak, and I wanted to express, what each of them is up to, some of the people that we've come in contact with. A couple to start out with, folks that we actually spoke to on the street. Remember the time I went on the street? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So you remember the fellow by the name of Stoney?
I do.
And Stoney caught the first striped bass this week. Not a keeper, but off of Rat Tails Hollow, 26 inches.
I didn't know we were allowed to get striped bass right now.
Stoney doesn't have a lot of the rules down, although he knew enough not to take a 26-inch striped bass.
What is the limit right now?
I think 28.
28, okay.
He said the earliest ever. I was casting offshore in the white water, and wham, I got a hit, and off it went. It was hard to turn the fish. He says he's out of shape. I smoked a bowl after I released the fish and rested the rest of the morning in the sun.
That was his workout for the day.
Workout for the day. It's not easy smoking that bowl, I imagine. And then you remember Thomas Ben Realty.
Yep, I remember them.
Doing well. Good. That was a contact I had the other day when I saw him peering at the golf course. So I went over and visited with him, and he was just dreaming about that first swing. But anyway, he said they're doing well. We most recently sold an underground home built into a former military bunker on the south end of the tail. When he refers to the tail, that means the rat tail, just north of the state park, for $1.7 million. He says, not much of a house to look at, but what a view from the front yard.
I don't know. I was just talking to my father, and I think underground living might be the future because it's going to be so warm.
Yeah.
And if you're in your bunker house, it stays a nice even temperature.
Well, yeah, I think maybe it'll be time for me to check out. But anyway, no, good temperature, sure, yep. But, the idea of being underground is never that appealing to me. However, I don't know, other people like it. And apparently somebody likes it for 1.7. I imagine that's just to buy the lot.
Well, I mean, some of these underground sort of earth houses are pretty cool. They usually have, they have one wall of windows looking out usually.
Yeah, I think this one does. I would imagine it would be one hell of a seller if he or she, whoever bought this, purchased this property, would put another home on top of it. My goodness, what a seller you'd have.
Yeah, it's true.
So, I don't know, with all the water issues, I can't imagine living underground.
Yeah, and there's not much water out on Rat Tail.
You remember Damon Forthright, who we met on the streets, the other person we met on the streets that day, when they went on that Man on the Streets episode. He's the guy that I forgot that he was at Eva in my wedding, or he forgot, or somebody forgot. Well, he says the Kentucky Golf Course opens April 1st. Once again, more about golf. His birthday. Anyone wants to buy me a free round of golf that day? It's cool with me, he says.
April 1st. You don't have a lot of days to get back in shape if you're going to start playing on the 1st.
Well, I'd have to go over and buy him a round, so I might miss April 1st anyway. So I don't find him and have to buy him some golf. Anyway, that said, you remember Jane Malancic, who we met that day on the streets, the day we met Damon, who she had this thing with, who, we met that same day. And you might recall he had a very brief romantic relationship with Damon.
She was telling us about her trip to the top of the water tower.
Yes, and said she's selling daffodils if anyone wants them, $1 a blossom. Come by and she'll pick them fresh. Well, that's a very seasonal opportunity.
I'm trying to figure out if $1 for one daffodil stalk is a good price or a bad price. It seems expensive.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I went up and bought a breast of chicken and a dozen eggs. And, when I'm going to eat chicken, I want to eat the fresh stuff from locally. And it was very expensive.
Oh, yeah.
However, it tasted great. I made a beautiful chicken parm.
Oh, I like chicken parm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm coming over next time you make chicken parm.
Okay, I'll call you on that one. But I also have to get the corned beef for...
Oh, that's right. I prefer chicken parm to corned beef.
But Stuart says...
Stuart likes corned beef.
He wants it, so I'm going to do that too. Maybe we'll do the both. Josh Smallloss, the insurance salesperson of the year, apparently doesn't have a small loss this time. He was salesperson of the year nationwide and made the paper, right?
Yep.
Well, he last year he had 2,000 new clients, and he was the number one in the country. Now he's 767
in the country.
Wow. This year, after last year's new accounts dropped him, he says, for online less pricey options. Ouch. See, what happens is everybody can shop for insurance every day if you want and change your plan. So that was just a little report from Josh Smallloss, which is a great name for an insurance agent. Coleman Genk, last year's Memorial Day speaker, indicates that he wants another try after finishing his speech last year with, "They don't make war like they used to," which I thought wasn't a bad line, but apparently there was a lot of objection among the veterans. And he says that he meant to say, "War don't like." But all the other words changed the meaning, he said.
I don't even understand what that is.
And he was very cryptic with "war don't like." All the other words that were in that sentence, "they don't make war like they used to," he didn't mean any of those other words. He just meant to say "war don't like," which I think it's good. It's almost like a coach I knew.
Don't like war? I mean, can we rearrange them? I'm going to go with don't like war.
Okay, don't like war. Yeah, all right, that's good too. I mean, you wanted to make it more intelligible. However, let's think about this. There was this football coach that I worked with at the University of Rhode Island, and he liked to bring everything back to the most simplest form for his student athletes, and I thought it was great. He said he had a motto, and it was "do good." I like it because it means a lot. And
if you reverse those, it means something completely different.
Good do.
Yeah.
Ooh, very clever. You didn't grow up on the. Your parents must have been well educated. Fondue and Fun owner Kerst Olesen. Remember him? Well, I don't know if you remember Kerst, but we talked a lot about Fondue and Fun.
Yeah, I do remember Fondue and Fun.
In an effort to increase the fiber content in his fondue recipe and thus make it more digestible, he's added oatmeal. I mean, this is news. Olesen says oatmeal cuts down on the cholesterol, adds fiber to the gooey mix, and a block of cheese goes a longer way. It's a win-win for all involved. I mean, why did he tell me this on the street the other day? I mean, this is ridiculous. You don't have to say too much to somebody for them to just divulge all this stuff. It happens all the time with me. Does it to you?
People like to talk to you.
They do. They like to say things that they maybe make them feel comfortable. But then I report all of it here.
So I guess he must blend it all up. Right, because you don't want chunks in your fondue other than the things that you drop in there.
I think he brings it to a powder form, and then adds it to the cheese.
Yeah, like he puts it in the
I don't know.
mill.
But I would say that's a good choice because I think it can be very binding fondue. I'm just going to guess that's going to take a week to get rid of if you get over to the Fondue and Fun. However, with the oatmeal, bring it on. That's what I say. And then the last person I had an opportunity to get a report from was Tony Infantolini. And we reported that he found a milk snake in his cereal box.
Wait, didn't he die?
His relatives. Did Fantolini die?
How'd you talk to him after he died?
He died. He died. He did die. It must have been his brother. He looks exactly like him. Do you know this guy that's his brother?
I don't know his brother, but
I think his brother's name is Butch.
You definitely broke the news to
that's right.
Saffron and myself when Saffron was a guest that Tony had died as a result of this milk snake incident.
Well, his relatives are suing the cereal company for $50 million.
Can they prove that the snake came out of the unopened box? I mean, it could have just slithered in while it was hanging out on the shelf after it had been opened.
I would imagine that's all going to be revealed in the lawsuit from the family. Butch is his brother. That's right. And they're both in that business. They're in the aquaculture business. Yeah, so there you have it, the milk snake story. And thank you for correcting me. But that was Tony. Yeah, I forgot that he died anyway. That's terrible that I forgot. And here we go with the music. I really didn't plan on laughing today, given my circumstance here with the pain I'm in. However, you made me laugh. Well, is it bullshit or not? That's always a fun little segment that we do here. Colbert Cuthbert. My first, is it bullshit or not? Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
And I'm not sure. Okay, Colbert Cuthbert. You know, he's the poet from the pot sticker area. Mm-hmm. We call it something else, right? Last week I called it...
sometimes we refer to it as the pierogies.
Oh, yeah, right. That's very cool. Depends who's in town, right? Coleman Cuthbert, the poet from Pot Sticker area. He lives down there. All the rich and famous live. Down near the famous singer, reports that he's been censured by the Trump administration for using the word hairpiece in a poem he recently wrote. A group of 7 federal law enforcement agents rushed his house upon his opening of the door, took his notebook filled with poems written in longhand, and said to Coleman, "You're lucky you're not on a plane to El Salvador with the rest of the poets." Coleman reports that he can't sleep at night without his book of poems and with the knowledge that he could have been deported in the middle of the night.
So
Coleman's from town, and I think he's been here his whole life.
I know that's what I've been wondering this actually for a while. Like if they round any of us up for things we've said or posted and we're, U.S. born citizens, where will they deport us to?
Likely to Canada.
Oh,
I don't think
unfortunately,
Canada
I
wants
think
us.
they're going to have to just throw us in jail.
I don't like the sounds of any of that. However, is this bullshit or is it not?
Given the things that this administration has done already, I would say it's totally plausible.
It is plausible, however, it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So they haven't come for the poets yet.
No, not yet.
Soon. You'll be on that list.
I would suggest that there's a piece of hair. How about that? Switching it up. Like our friend in the last episode there. Okay, so I have another one. Do you have one?
Sure.
Okay, rip it.
Is it bullshit or not that 8 young people had a secret mall apartment in the Providence Place Mall for 4 years?
That is true.
It is true. I just saw the movie and I highly recommend it.
Good. I was listening to NPR and I was aware of this.
I remember when it happened, but I learned so much more in the movie. And I have to say, if you want to laugh, I laughed quite a bit.
I like to laugh. Is it on you can tell me one of the programs, one of the streaming services that...
No. You have to go to either Jane Pickens in Newport or up to the Providence Place Mall. They're actually playing it there. They've allowed the banned artist who was banned as a result of this to come back into the mall.
Oh, not a band artist, but a band, B-A-N-N-E-D.
Yes.
Well, it probably, in both cases, would require me to take a few steps, and I'm just probably not going to go right now. However, I would like to see that. I did enjoy the NPR bit. Remember Remember we had something about Daily Leaf Blowing, that company?
Mm-hmm.
Daily Leaf Blowing, a full-service leaf blowing service service and service in the same sentence, not good. Daily Leaf Blowing, a full-service company that they advertised recently that they did daily leaf blowing at your house.
Mm-hmm.
They've been sued through a class action suit brought forward by a group only known as the East Shore Yogis. What do you know what a yogi is? Apparently there are enough yogis living in the East Shore Road to bring an end to daily leaf blowing. Come by the offices of Smart, Loco, and Estupido, located on Katunkwit, Maine, near the store All Things Armpits, across from Angina Monologues. They've changed their name. So
Is the grounds for this suit due to the noise?
The grounds for the suit is due to the noise. Correct. The yogis, they want the peace.
They're definitely not going to go for pickleball in their neighborhood.
Oh, pickleball is the sound of people getting healthy, but in my case, not. However, on this story with this, there are, just to qualify some of this, from afar, there are a significant number of yogis that live on East Shore Road. I know it for sure. Okay, so you want me to repeat that? Apparently there are enough yogis living in the East Shore Road to bring an end to daily leaf blowing services. Come by the offices of Smart, Loco, and Estupido, which is a very unfortunate name, located on Katunkwit, Maine, in the store All Things Armpits, which is across from an Angina Monologues.
I'm going to say it's bullshit.
There were parts of it that are not bullshit.
I believe that, but as a package,
Yeah,
I'm going to say it's bullshit.
it is bullshit. However, let's get a lawsuit going.
Electric leaf
smart
blowers
loco,
only.
Maybe another lawyer would get on that. I don't know, something quieter. We don't need to leaf blow. There's too much of that. Just get a rake.
Or just leave it there. It's good for your soil.
It is. It is. Music, waves. Here we go. Bubbles. In the interest of time, I'm going to... No, let's bubble. All right, so we're into that segment of the show where we have to acknowledge some of the people that make this all happen. I would like to suggest that the Launch Lab from the University of Rhode Island, Assistant Director of the Launch Lab, Associate Director, Brian Smith, is helping us immeasurably with our podcast, and we thank them for all of their work in the engineering elements, editing, and promotion. So thank you very much for everything you do. Also, Busby Copper is making all things copper for your spring gardening tools. Enjoy the crimson copper this year, and next year the teal tones of copper implements. Come by now and order custom tools for your gardening pleasure. Now, on that topic, I would suggest I like the poetry in this sentence. Enjoy the crimson copper this year, and next year the teal tones of copper implements. Too many coppers in the sentence, but very good. I like that one.
It's very visual.
It is, and what beauty is there in copper when it makes that change.
And it patinas.
Okay, so Katunkwit Community Gardening is starting our spring cleanup this Saturday. Bring a hoe and dig in.
I was just thinking about them because I think they're the people who planted all the daffodils along the bike path by the reservoir, and they're all poking their heads up now.
Those are the gardeners. This is the community garden.
Ah.
And there's, they grow vegetables so people can't afford fresh food. So get involved at the Katunkwit Community Garden. Bring a hoe and dig in. Ho. There's all kinds of meanings. Duplicitous meaning. Katunkwit Flying Boats asked they used to reserve early this year. Contact us through the QR code listed here. It's an auditory means here, media. How do you reflect a QR code?
Maybe they don't realize that.
I think not. And I guess there must have been such a run on these flying boats. You any familiar with anything that flies around that looks like a boat?
No, well, there's the Regent, which looks like a plane that acts like a boat.
Okay, let's get on that. More next time. We'll get back to you on that one. Venmo Me is a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing funds for the betterment of self. Venmo Me at Jallen. That's Jallen 1234.
Are you trying to solicit money?
Well, not really. This is me having a joke. Venmo Me is not a company. That's me making a joke. So don't Venmo anybody with Venmo Me a Jallen. Don't do that. Disclaimer. It was a joke. Groundwater is Us. Are you pumping incessantly with recent rains? At Groundwater is Us, we hook up pumps to pump that precious groundwater that you're pumping down the street and reconnect it to your pool so you don't have to ever pay someone in a big truck to fill your pool. We take the pain out of pooling. And that is painful, paying that $450 every year. But we do it.
To fill your pool?
Yeah, we can't use town water.
Is that how much it costs?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's
you could
worth
swim
it.
in the bay.
Yes, but Eva likes to just sit in the backyard and have a couple of friends over and chat
And
it up on
they
Sunday.
just float in the pool?
Yeah. It's nice. You got to get over there for the eve of Sundays. That's kind of nice. You could use a little less like action in your life and just go with inaction and chats. She's a good chatter.
She is a good chatter.
I mean, she knows a lot of things too. I'm not talking like it's not idle chat.
It's not small talk.
No, she's not. Neither are you. So, okay, so check this out. Extra tickets for the recent play that took place last week. Come by and get some tickets to the play that premiered last week in Cotuncquit. All purchases of useless tickets provides another season of musicals in Cotuncquit and another opportunity for young talent to blossom.
Do we have to pay this price we would pay for a ticket that wasn't useless?
Yeah,
or is
same
this
price.
More as a souvenir thing?
This is a souvenir idea. Exactly. It's really donate to the play. If you can't make it to the play for some reason, which happens, and not everyone can go from Cotuncquit. There's about 7,000 of us. I would imagine that this is a way to contribute. I think it's a fantastic idea, and they did print extra tickets. And for an extra fee, you can have it framed.
Are there really 7,000 of us?
You're checking me out on all this stuff all the time. Yeah, it's worth the Google. Remember that line?
Yep, I do.
It's worth the Google.
Can't Google now. Put my phone on airplane mode.
Don't Google anything. Right to Bubbles. We went right to Bubbles. Okay, so we have a story today that we'd like to share with you. I would. And as many of you know, I didn't grow up in Cotuncquit. I grew up in another town north of here, near the water. You know, we've heard a lot about my experiences. But we had some strange personalities on our street, and I wanted to tell you the story about 123 Army, which was a game we played, which is sad in itself, don't you think?
Because of the Army part?
Yeah, well, it was a game that was devised where a person was shot, and after they were shot, the one that died the best was the winner of the opportunity to shoot. So let's do this. Let's get right into it.
Okay.
Unless you have questions.
Nope, I'll probably have questions afterwards.
And I have to say, this is a story, and the names are different, but a lot of this happened. The muzzle of the Daisy BB gun rests on a log in the distance. We can see his head, the glisten of one eyeball, and arms cradling the gun, nestled amongst the bush for camouflage. Derek quivers as he waits his turn. His younger brother Todd is 8 years old, and he'll go third with me in the lead spot because I'm the oldest at 10. Hal, who we call Scav because he's a wicked scavenger, anticipates that Derek and me and Todd, soldiers of the U.S. Army, to be crossing the broad open space soon. Scav's plastic World War II Nazi replica helmet nearly covers his beady eyes, the kind of eyes that are slightly close together. However, even with his narrow eyes, he's a crack shot with his own Daisy BB gun, a present from his rich Quebec Canadian relatives that visit each Easter. They arrive with beaucoup presents. Last year they brought Scav a 4-foot-high chocolate rabbit. He never shares any of it with any of us, unless we pay 50 cents for small plastic baggies with a few morsels of Canadian chocolate slivers at the bottom of the bag. None of the three of us have any money to buy chocolate from Scav. "Come on, get on with it," Scav yells from behind the log. I look at Derek, and he shakes his head. I put my mother's Foster Grant sunglasses on to protect my eyes. The sunglasses she recently bought at Almack's grocery market for $1. Derek's wearing his swimming goggles, and his brother's head is encased in my father's welding helmet. He can see next to nothing, as the helmet's designed to only work under the brightest of light while an adult person welds. He has the dark glass opening in the front flipped up, not protecting his eyes at all. But his plan is to get a bead on his destination and then flip the glass down and run like hell. Of course, it doesn't fit his head, and he continually adjusts the dome so he can see through what little space exists. He's afraid, but not as afraid as his brother Derek, who's smarter than any of all of us and knows that it's likely to hurt if you're shot by a real Daisy BB gun. The summer sun has baked the neighbor's yard, and the midday heat seems to rise from the brown grass. Far in the distance lies the cover of a stand of cedar trees outlining the border of the property, and a large, downed pine log, its base rotten, exposing a broad root structure, perfect for cover. "What's taking you so long, you chicken?" Scav asks aloud while sitting with his gun at the ready. Derek shakes his head as I take one last look back at my two comrades, all of us dressed in green as we planned this morning. I pin the Foster Grants into the bridge of my nose tightly and dash forward from our hiding spot behind the maple tree near the patio in my backyard. My target is the downed pine tree on the south end of the yard. This makes the shot from Scav's gun more distant and thus more difficult. Scav's a great shot, and I anticipate being hit, but hopefully just once, and double hopefully not in the face or the head, or anywhere on the lens of my mother's Foster Grants. I couldn't explain shattering a lens. As I step forward in a burst of speed, everything seems to be in slow motion. Even sound seems to find its way to my ears in the muffled sort of movie-like slow motion, as I can hear the first projectile pass me and even clip a branch behind me. I hear the lever action Daisy reload, and I know the next round is coming, so I stop, restart like a wide receiver in football running a button-hook route. He misses again. Derek yells, "Go, go, 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 Ray, 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 go!" as I sprint right and left with rounds stinging by me. The noise of the Daisy lever seems to increase in frequency. I'm halfway to the fallen pine when my mother's Foster Grant slip down my nose and fall into the brown soil, their white frames dirtied, the lenses trashed with baked powdery earth. I'm panicked. I turn back to lift them from the ground when I feel a searing pain, the kind of sting that is so specific and pinpointed that it holds its pain point at an excruciating level. It hurts at a point just above my right knee. I reach for the Foster Grants and pound them into place and fall where I have been hit, as it is Scav's rule. His rule states that if we were to be hit, we must die in place, and the one of us that died the best or escaped without being hit to the opposite side of the yard would then become the shooter. All as per Scav's set of 1, 2, 3 Army rules. Given that the spot above my knee throbs beyond belief, I don't find it hard to die in place. But I make a meal of the opportunity because I love acting and play it up really well, maybe too well. Face down in the dried earth, my nose and glasses in the dirt, I lay there with my right hand secretly massaging my wound beneath me. You all right?" Derek asks aloud in his shaky voice. Wanting to remain in character, I grunt quietly, "I'm okay," to assure Derek and Todd that it's safe to proceed. Derek isn't convinced with my few grunts, but I don't want to give up my chance with Scav at becoming best assessed death. So I remain motionless and silent, exacerbating Derek's by now, understandably, complete and utter shit-stained underwear fear. I shift my head slightly and imperceptibly to see Todd consoling his brother. Unaware of the dangers that lurk for Todd's oversized helmet itself, Todd goes from consoling his now tear and fear-filled older brother to encouraging him by moving him closer to the ultimate exposure from our protected enclave behind the maple tree. Eventually, encouragement from Todd becomes a full shove from our hiding space, and Derek, who can run like the wind, begins his journey in the most circuitous manner, at tremendous speed, almost as if running naked without shoes in a snowstorm on the playground at school with the school in session, if you can get my drift. He first sprints, goggles and all, directly at the shooter's lair, and this tactic seems to work, as no shots are fired. Then he hard right turns to the end of the yard as tears run down his face, extra tight goggle straps creasing his cheeks. His intent to sprint to the tree stump is written all over the stress expressed in his determined expression. As he makes the turn, Derek reaches out with one gazelle-like stride, his long leg reaching for the goal of the stump heroically. Yet the projectile finds his right forearm, and like a great sprinter whose precision-measured strides are critical to maintaining speed, he's spun around by the brass BB as if a soldier in war losing an arm from the blast of a grenade. It's truly a virtuoso performance, if it were a performance. But Derek is truly injured, and it's his pitching arm, which is really bad. See, it's almost opening day, and Derek's the best pitcher in the minor league, maybe in the whole state of Rhode Island. Derek's down and rolling in the dirt. Even his Boston Red Sox official jersey, which he wears every day, and today beneath his green shirt, as an undergarment, becomes filthy as he struggles nearby me. "It's okay, D. Hang in there. Play dead, or he'll shoot again," I say quietly. "I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you, you two pussy. Stay put or I'll plunk you again where you lay," Scav yells from the other side of the yard. "You're not dead if you're talking. Don't make me shoot again," Scav announces, with a hint of regret in his words, identifying his grim responsibility to the game that he created, strict adherence to his own rules, involving his only friends. I know now that I'm not going to win this game. Derek is assured of winning. Derek has always been 2 or 3 mental steps ahead of Scav in everything we do together for years, despite being 2 years younger. However, Scav will never let us win because he's not brave at all. I adjust my head to see both Todd and Scav, as I abandon watching my friend Derek suffer. He continues to whimper in pain. The BB pierced the skin of his forearm, and blood has penetrated his Boston Red Sox official jersey, including his green outer army-like shirt. Todd straightens his helmet for the 500th time, finds his target directly across the field, flips the shaded glass shield down as he begins to move forward. He's 8, yet he runs really well. He even plays a league up with the minor leaguers despite his age. But with a welding helmet on and no visual means of orientation, Todd falls immediately upon entering the yard, making him a small yet slow target for Scav. I can hear Scav laughing in the distance. Both Derek and I are always protecting Todd from Scav, who is 11 years old and therefore 3 years older than Todd. Todd's first reaction to falling is to pick himself up, open his eye shield to see where he's going. Then he starts out across the yard. With each stride, he gets closer to his target, but he makes the mistake of continually looking back at Scav as he runs. And just as he looks back at the shooter's lair, the whack, of the gun firing can be heard, and simultaneously Todd trips, sending him sideways and exposed to the BB shot, the projectile shattering the protective shield and spraying glass in every direction. Todd screams in agony, shedding the welding helmet in one dramatic motion and regaining his balance, his face a bloody mess as bits of dark glass have embedded in his cheeks and dripping blood. Scav shoots again, hitting Todd in the chest as the youngest of us moves brazenly in Scav's direction, chest out, chin high, and truly pissed off, protesting having been shot in the face, strictly against even Scav's own rules. Derek lifts himself from his own misery, as I do, and we pick glass shards from Todd's face. My father's welding helmet shattered by his side. Scav stands nervously at the far end of the field, his hands firmly on the gun and not approaching. I strip my green shirt and pull my white t-shirt off, spit on it to make it wet, and daub the bloody spots on Todd's face to stem the bleeding. He's not even crying. He's incredulous that his so-called 11-year-old friend Scav would shoot him in the face, and that was the mistake. And if that was a mistake, then he shoots him in the chest. I didn't want to hurt him, Scav yells, never moving from his position. Well, why don't you help us out then? Derek asked, tears still streaming down his face, one clenched fist in full protection of his younger brother mode. I'm good right here, Scav says nervously. You're going to tell me, you're going to tell on me? Are you going to tell on me? He questions. Scav's parents work 12-hour shifts each day at a plastics fabrication company, so there isn't anyone to tattletale to if he wanted to. Scav is largely on his own every day, without any guardrails, except his own considerable and one could say nearly irrational fear of being injured. Maybe he is aware of a lack of safety net in the form of two normal parents that are always there for him to lean on like Derek and Todd have, and even me. That's probably why Scav is always the shooter, and never among the ranks of those being shot, and attempting to die in the most convincing manner. Truth is, Scav's afraid of everything, and now Derek and me and Todd are assured he's not even close to the guy he pretends to be. We never see Scav's Daisy BB gun out of his house anymore. I don't know where it is, but I haven't seen it since that day a week ago. But suddenly, after a long period without seeing Scav, he comes walking up the street after the 7th day with an Almax paper bag. He sees us hanging out on Kalu's rock wall. Todd has, but must be like 10 Band-Aids on his face, even a small one beneath his left eye. We're pitching rocks at a target in the sand to see who gets closest. Scav is smiling, his front incisor teeth rotten on the edges from eating the bubble gum from baseball card packages. Scav would buy a box of baseball cards with 100 packs in it, and chew the gum. Ironically, he always says he doesn't want to waste it. Derek stands up in front of his younger brother as Scav approaches with his hands clenched in his fists. Scav opens the bag to reveal some of what's inside. Derek's fists remain clenched, and I stand there and touch the back of Derek's left hand to release some tension. Todd looks on, still seated behind us, yet curious as to what's in the bag, and peering around us, his bandaged face sneaking a look around my waist. "What's all that?" I ask. "Thought I'd share us all," Scav mumbles, his mouth filled with 5 pieces of stale gum. Now you share, Derek says astutely. I brought most of the chocolate bunny's head, Scav announces. Todd stands up and slides in next to me, close enough to be protected by me, but closer to the loot bag. You hungry? There's chocolate and gum and even STP stickers for you guys, as long as, he says while opening the bag further. As long as what? As long as we don't tell on you? Right? You puke. Scav, you suck, Derek says boldly. None of that was right, Scav. I mean, the first shot may have been an accident, but you shot him in the chest after you shattered Todd's face. Come on, man. You do suck, I say. What have you been doing for a week? Derek asks. My uncle in Canada sent the chemistry set. I've been mixing chemicals just like that, Scav says. Todd still is young enough to giggle whenever any of us older kids swear, and he does. That's kind of cool. What are you making? I ask as I notice Derek's hands are no longer clenched in fists. I don't know, I can't really read the directions. It's all huge words, so I try to follow along, but I just mix a lot of this and a little of that and see what happens, Scav says. I can read scientific words, Derek says abruptly. Maybe you guys can come over and help me sometime whenever my parents come home. I'm not allowed to do it while I'm alone during the day, but when they come home, I can do it outside. It's real professional. There's like hundreds of chemicals. Scav continues talking. Are we going to eat chocolate? Derek asks. Scav opens the bag and moves to the wall, dumping the contents of the bag on the rocks where the lawn meets the edge. The chocolate rabbit head is melted into an odd shape, its eyes drooping below its whisker line and nose. Scav releases it from the huge plastic bag with his chemically stained fingers, his nails too long for a young boy, as we all look on in amazement. We don't ever get chocolate, except on Easter, once per year. Scav gives me a whole ear. An ear to Derek also, who takes it reluctantly, and then hands the entire drooping, nearly melting face of the rabbit to Todd. Thank you, Todd says. Yeah, thanks, Derek says reluctantly. I just nod my head. In what seems like seconds, the bunny's ear is nearly finished. So I'm eyeing whatever else Scav intends to give us from the pile to pay us off for not telling the truth about Todd's injury. We made up something about glass windows shattering at Gidley's abandoned tree fort where we play whenever the Gidleys go on vacation to cover for Scav. But if it were discovered that we were getting shot in the neighbor's yard by Scav, we'd never see the light of day all summer. Unopened baseball card packages are what I want. My family's always too poor to buy anything extra. And when we do have something special, it's like popcorn or doughboys with powdered sugar, but only when the movie The Wizard of Oz is on TV once per year in the late fall, or if Frosty the Snowman's on TV. I only own any of Scav's cast-off cards. Those are the ones I own. Unwanted players that he flings at the stone wall once in a while. I keep them in a shoebox in my room beneath my bed, and I look at them every night. Study the stats of each lame, almost professional player, and wonder if they'll make it to the big league. Here, just take a pack of cards each, a pack of stickers, and I have a Canadian flag button for each of you, Scav says while handing over the loot. Holly, Hallie, 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 Scav's mother. Hallie, 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 Hallie. Scav's mother calls aloud, startling Scav because his mother's rarely around and no one ever calls him Hal. Never mind Hallie. I gotta go. Say nothing, right? Say nothing, Scav announces with a question. It's really not a question, and this isn't lost on any of us left behind. Even Todd, whose lips and bandaged face are strewn with juicy chocolate bunny. Derek smirks, and I notice his right fist forms, but then relaxes as Scav moves down the street. Scav looks back at us as he smiles, his rotten front teeth apparent even from afar. We both help Todd eat most of the rabbit's face and scatter quickly when my mother calls me for lunch. Raymond! 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 I hear, sprinting to the open back door. Todd and Derek sprint home together. Derek holds the bag filled with the rest of the chocolate head. Mom makes my favorite welched rarebit, but my sisters and I always call it welched rabbit. During lunch, I think of the melted face of that chocolate rabbit that once stood 4 feet high. And that's the end of that story. 1, 2, 3 Army.
That was a great story.
Oh.
I remember a lot of those things from my youth. The flat pieces of stale gum in the
Yes.
baseball cards.
Yeah, there was never quality gum in the cards. And then
No.
the cards
And
smelled like gum.
And it was, I think they intentionally put that little bit of powder in there. You know, it was always had a white powder on it.
True. And I think sometimes I would consider eating a card because it smelled like bubble gum. I mean, there wasn't a lot of sugar in the diet. Let's just say that. Yeah.
And I remember the STP stickers, too. We used to put those all on our bikes.
True. And then, Scav would go get him at I think we talked about this, but he would go to the local car dealership and he'd pull,
I don't even know where they came from when we were
That's
kids.
where they came from. Yeah. And it was persons like Scav who would ask for them, and they would give him. Yeah, he was a tragic character. I intend to write a few more stories about this time in our lives, because there's a lot more to express. So I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I think, it sort of captures the essence of those kind of, I don't know if it was summer, but, those kind of days where you ran around with your pack of friends and did stupid things.
Yeah, there was a lot of risk-taking. Yeah. And for me, it was a lot about, food collection in the neighborhood. Whoever had the apples, since it's apple season, I had it all figured out. I even knew where the asparagus was. Because my neighborhood was a farm initially, and it was an asparagus farm.
Oh, and the asparagus will just keep growing.
So at the borders of all the properties, there were asparagus that came up at a certain time of year, and you just had to know to go cut it. And I did. That's an example, but also mulberries. There was a mulberry tree right in there. The biggest mulberries you'd ever see. I mean, we just eat them until we turn blue. But this is how we got a little sugar into the diet. It's a little sad. And then there was this dude that would show up in it was like a Wonder Truck. They sold bread mostly, but there was also pastries and things like that. Every once in a while, there was a pastry that found its way off the truck. Yeah, we were like little hoodlums. We'd, find a way to distract the bread man. He looked as if he ate a lot of bread.
He was a bit doughy?
He was rotund. And it was everything he could do to deliver the bread. However, I'm no one to complain because my injuries right now are ridiculous. So I couldn't be delivering any bread either. But lots of interesting times, formative times for all of us. To know what's right, what's wrong is it's critical. I mean, it's like you burning down the neighborhood. Yeah.
I'm surprised you remember that story.
Oh, there's a few things I do remember about you. So there we are, another day in the life of Katunkwit folks. Well, in this case, didn't happen in Katunkwit, but That's a lot about these Katunkwit.
A little bit north.
Yeah. Your Katunkwit family's okay?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that'll be all for today
All right.
from Katunkwit.
Good to see you, James.
Good to see you. Good to be seen. Good to be alive. It's good to hear this wave. There it is. And now, the lovely bubbles.
I bet if you played that at night, your pain would go away.
I'm thinking I would, if I were to go in the water, my pain would go away, which I might do soon. I'm desperate. That's all. Let's get out of here.